The other night, I had some buddies over and we were just talking about hoops. The usual. We were discussing the Cavs ceiling and I was telling them how high I am on Scotty Barnes and the Toronto Raptors, and that's when it hit me. The West has been a powerhouse and has been dominating both conferences for the better half of the 2010s. And now, this year, I think there's 9 teams in the East that could make the playoffs easily, but obviously there's only 8 spots. With the play-in, this should turn out to be a very, very interesting season for the East. The Celtics, Nets, Heat, Bucks, 76ers, Bulls, Cavs, Raptors, and Hawks all could make the playoffs next year. Honestly, half of those teams could probably make the finals. So today, we're going to be just briefly talking about these 9 teams and how I'm super impressed with the entire Eastern Conference as a whole for coming back to the competitive side of things. Before we get into this video, I just want to say it's very possible for teams like the Knicks, the Wizards, or the Hornets to make a little run in the play-in or at the 7 or 8 seed. It just depends really where they end up in the standings. Without further ado, let's discuss 9 teams, not in order, that I think are somewhat locks to make the playoffs or play in. First and foremost, the Boston Celtics. Do I really need to say much here? They're coming off a finals appearance. They traded for Malcolm Brogdon. They're still being coached by Emeka Udoka, and Robert Williams should be back fully. And even if they face some injuries, they definitely have the talent and depth for the regular season. The only issue I could see with this team going forward is the possible rift forming between Jaylen Brown and the organization as a whole. I'm not sure if it's the city of Boston that Jaylen is upset with, or if you guys were not up to date on the Kevin Durant trade saga before it got halted, you'd know that the Celtics offered Jaylen in a package for Durant, and he wasn't what you'd call thrilled to hear such news. I don't blame him either. He played incredibly, arguably was the best Celtic in last year's finals. However, I also don't blame the Celtics for trying. If Kevin Durant's available, you gotta try. Speaking of Kevin Durant, the second team we're going to talk about is the Brooklyn Nets. I already made an entire video talking about the Nets, so I'll keep this one short. They have a full year of Kyrie. They retained Kevin Durant and traded for Ben Simmons. Like I said, I made a whole video. You guys can check it out if you want to hear it more in depth. But the Nets definitely make you want to watch them this year. I mean, I'm very, very excited for this team to make the playoffs, and I think aside from Steve Nash, everything about this team's potential is through the roof. Ben is seriously going to help them with their defensive woes, and I'm really excited to see 7-Eleven back in action. The next team I think is an obvious playoff lock is the Miami Heat. Maybe with Jimmy's new hairstyle, they could be champion locks, but who knows. All jokes aside, I really like that they're kind of running it back with a chip on their shoulder. I heard this clip of Tyler Hero basically saying that we were a game away from the finals last year, a couple games if that, and we don't need to change much. I do think it would take everyone being on their A game and Tyler taking almost an all-star jump for them to make a deep playoff run, but they do have a lot of experience in not only the players, but the coach and front office. If you guys saw my first video ever, you'd know I'm a big fan of Spo and Pat Riley. They're both seriously great and bright basketball minds. Another obvious playoff lock in my eyes is the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis is so damn good that I honestly feel like I can make this section 10 seconds long, and those 10 seconds would be me right here talking about how good Giannis is, and no one would even question it. Giannis is hooping year round. I mean, I don't know if you guys are paying attention to these games, but what he's doing in Greece right now is remarkable, and it's truthfully inspiring and also concerning. There's a lot of NBA fans that would tell you last year that the Bucks would have went all the way last year had Chris not got injured, but we can't play that game. I think them losing Dante DiVincenzo mid-season was pretty sad considering they didn't even retain Serge Ibaka, but I guess they'll probably be looking for Grayson Allen to take over in his role, so I digress. One of the last playoff locks for me is the Philadelphia 76ers. If you guys watched my most recent video talking about Joel Embiid, you'd know I think 76ers have a lot to prove this year. Harden taking that team-friendly contract really shows you how committed they are to making things work this year. I think at this stage in Harden's career, he's so ready to win, and Joel Embiid is hungry to try and make that next step to becoming an MVP or the best player in the NBA. I mean, he possesses both the ability on offense and defense to do so if he can just stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, like I said, the NBA has got to look out for Philadelphia, man. Tyrese Maxey could potentially be an all-star this year. I mean, you could talk about this team's 1 through 5 all day long. So those were 5 teams that are for sure, in my eyes, going to make the playoffs. These next 4 that round out the 9, one of these obviously isn't going to make it. In my eyes, it's going to be the last team I say, but again, we're going to keep going. Sixth team I have making the playoffs would be the Toronto Raptors. If you guys saw my video talking about Scotty Barnes, you know how high I am on the Toronto Raptors. I won't waste too much time talking about this. I just think they're insanely coached. They play winning basketball. Everyone knows their role. They have great shooters. They have guys who can play defense. No one's afraid to get out in transition. When there's adversity, they have leaders to take care of it. Next year, if Scotty takes an all-star jump, they'll be a team with 3 all-stars. Like the ceiling for this team is remarkable. I seriously doubt they miss the playoffs. Next, the Chicago Bulls. This is a team that I think it really depends on Lonzo and how he comes back and how a lot of people come back from injuries, because it really could be that a slow start to the season is all it takes to miss the playoffs when it's a year that's going to be as close as this. So if the Bulls can stay healthy this year, I could definitely see them squeaking into the playoffs. But unfortunately, I think their ceiling this year is a lot smaller than it was last year. And maybe that has to do with the fact that the shock factor is gone. You know, everyone was so shocked that Chicago was the 1 seed last year. And now this year, it's like Lonzo's hurt and this person's banged up. And is DeMar really going to play the same as last year? I think a lot of people also are throwing the towel in on Vucevic. I don't know. I think if you're a Bulls fan, you just gotta hope Zach LaVine and Patrick Williams and Lonzo Ball comes back well. There's just a lot of hope, I think, in the Bulls organization. Number 8, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I made a whole video talking about these guys as well. I do think they're a playoff lock. I mean, I can't say enough good things about JB Bickerstaff and what he's done with that organization. I can't say enough good things about Darius Garland or Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, who, oh my lord, that man, he is going to be an amazing talent. If you guys don't watch Cleveland basketball, you need to tune in for number 4, because this guy is generational. I'm sure you already know that, but without further ado, the last team that could make the playoffs, but I'm going to leave them off as the 9th seed, is the Atlanta Hawks. And I know this can probably come off as bold for a lot of people, or some people are mad because they just got DeJounte Murray. And like I said, they very, very well could make the playoffs. But honestly, when I look at the 8 other teams I just listed, I can't see them not making the playoffs. Yes, Atlanta is insanely talented with that backcourt. And if Clint Capella can just have I don't even need him to have a good year. I just need him to catch lobs from Trey and DeJounte. Then he can be great again too. But I don't know. They took forever to re-sign John Collins. And it just seems like there's a lot of issues inside that organization that are more deep-seated than just basketball, you know, like putting the ball on hardwood. So I don't know. I think the Hawks are definitely going to have an interesting year. They could prove me wrong, and they could finish as like a 4 or a 5 seed, you know, because basketball, at the end of the day, guys, it's a game about runs. And whoever can get lucky and get the most stops and string together the most points in a row, it's a lot of skill, but it's also a lot of luck. And Trae Young definitely has that popcorn effect where at any moment he could just pop off and give you 40 or 15, 40 and 15, you know, like it really is about who shows up and hoops the best. But that's all for me today, guys. Those were 9 NBA teams out of the East. Let me know what you guys think below in the comments, who you think would be left off this list out of the 9 teams we talked about today. Also, let me know if you guys think it's as crazy as me that the West somehow became worse than the Eastern Conference overnight. I mean, that's what it feels like to me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, please be sure to leave it a like and subscribe if you're new. Hope you guys been enjoying the content recently. Peace.